you were sort of asking, well, if we don't use textbooks, what shall we do? The answer is to create activities for students that interests them as individuals, and to get them to using English in a natural, creative way. You can do that. Almost all of the teachers I've met in Japan can do that and are very good at it, but they don't have time.
Yes.
The ones who have attempted to do it work late at night, and so one of the qualifications for being a teacher of English in Japan is not to need much sleep. Some of the best teachers that I know seem to be awake at 2 o'clock in the morning, sending me emails and working on lesson plans, of course, trying to work out things that will interest their students. The best Japanese teacher I ever met was a junior high school teacher who insisted on individualizing her lessons for each of her students. And she found clever ways of doing that, but day after day after day she was staying up late at night, finding things, making materials for them, making sure there was a learning experience for every student. And so I used to use her as an example of real creativity and real support in teaching. And then she had a mental breakdown and had to take an educational leave of absence. And as you know, the number of teachers who are taking medical leaves of absence is increasing in Japan. It's because of time pressure, nothing else. They know what to do. They try to do it as long as they have time, but they just don't have time. That brings us back to textbooks. If you haven't had time to prepare, which you haven't, and your class begins in 3 minutes, you grab a textbook and run into the class and teach it just as it says. You can't tailor the experience to the students.
Also, I laid up night, and I couldn't sleep well because we have a lot of work, except make a lesson plans.
In addition to making lesson plans, you have other work to do.
Yeah, I like to make lesson plan to kind of fun and concentration listen.
Yes.
But
and you know how. There's no question about that. So if the ministry tries to send you to school for a week every year just to teach you how, it doesn't help. You know how. And it just takes another week from your time. So you are really pressed for any time to do anything. When I was teaching in a high school, I was as a part-timer, so they let me go home at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock every evening. But the full-time teachers had to stay there very late every night. And during the day they were engaged in all kinds of activities. There were club activities, and then there were duties helping the students to clean the halls at noon. And they always, the homeroom teachers seemed to be involved in getting students to school and running out and catching students who were not in school and bringing them back, or going to the police station to pick them up. The homeroom teachers have a lot of responsibility that we wouldn't think of in other countries. And the total effect is that they have no time for anything. And so they pick up a textbook and run into the class and teach whatever page is due that day. That's the function of textbooks. It's just a last-minute emergency for teachers who are too busy. I think teachers in Japan maybe have a tougher job than teachers anywhere. And teaching in Japan is one of the most difficult jobs in Japan. It's not something for people who do not have energy. It's not something for people who need sleep. It's not something for people who can't bounce back from disappointments. Because it's a very difficult job. I used to work in the Kato Gakuen school system with where they have the English immersion program for students. And of course in the English immersion program they have to hire native speakers of English from America and Canada and England and Australia and New Zealand and so on. But the problem with hiring teachers is that even though you explain to them how difficult the job is here, they don't believe it. They can't imagine it. And so they come to Japan and then they find out that they have to work long hours every day into the evening, that their weekends are not free. And if they ever imagined traveling around Japan and sightseeing, they were wrong. So in the beginning of that program, most of the teachers left after 1 year or before 1 year. And some of them even before that. One man who had a doctor's degree and experience in teaching English in 2 other countries before Japan, came to Japan and began teaching, and after 3 days he refused to come to school. He refused to get out of bed. It was just so much pressure. And who can imagine it? I'm quite sure that Monbu Kagakusho can't imagine the pressures on teachers. If they did, they wouldn't be putting more pressure on. If they did, they wouldn't require recertification and taking more classes. They wouldn't be trying to teach you how to teach communicative English. You know all that.
So maybe someone told us, kind of you said, so we believe that we work every day, no holidays, no private time. I think that it's good teachers. Maybe Japanese teachers think that, like English?
Yes, yes. I mean, they're such good people. They really want to teach, and they work so hard, and the system is crushing them down. The assumptions that people make and the habits of assigning tasks to teachers are simply out of control. And by that I mean no one is controlling them. No one is considering the pressures on teachers, and no one has the responsibility for making the pressures reasonable enough so the teachers can be healthy and live and teach well.
Yeah, and so textbook should be good enough to teach or to learn, or if we have some good teacher's manual for younger teachers, easy to teach, or
a little easier. Yeah. If the textbooks can help the teacher encourage the students to use English, to practice it, to speak it, and to understand it, even with each other, that would be good. Most textbooks are not quite that brilliant, and the method of using a textbook probably should be to use them as a takeoff point for discussion in class.